Are you a professional in the music industry and frustrated with all the legal issues that you must deal with all the time? Well, let us help you. At the Fine Law Firm, we've helped people just like you, entertainers, weave their way through the legal issues that you face. Eric Fine has over 10 years of experience working with entertainers just like you. From copyrights to royalty agreements, to venue agreements, anything that's involved with your business, Eric Fine can help you. You can easily reach Eric at 214-522-9596 or find us on the internet at ericfinelaw.net. That's fine, F-E-I-N law.net. Eric Fine, ready to help you with anything you may face. Get out there and do your music thing and leave the legal issues to us. Eric Fine Law, 214-522-9596. Call us today, Eric Fine Law. Hey everybody, it's the Trout, and I hope you're having a great day, and welcome to the Trout Show. You know, I'm always on the lookout for individual guitarists that can really play phenomenally good by listening to some difficult music and then playing it note for note, but at the same time being able to maintain their own individuality when it comes to writing their own music. Well, I was lucky. I found a person like that. Her name is Nili Brosh. She's played with some great guitarists of our time, Steve Vai, Jennifer Batten. She's played music with Danny Elfman. And she's also performed with Cirque du Soleil in Vegas. But what separates her is the fact that not only she's a Berklee music school graduate, but she can play those difficult pieces that I could never even think about starting up, but also does her own music, records her own songs at her own style. And I like that. And I think you'll like listening to her story about how she got where she is, how she maintains her individuality, and how she, in a group where it's always mostly men, is another great woman that's performing in a difficult business to get in if you're a woman. So I'm glad she sat down and talked to me about her life, and I think you'll like it, and I think you'll enjoy listening to Nili Brosh. So sit back and listen to the guitar stylings of a phenomenally great guitarist, Nili Brosh. That's next on The Trout Show. I want to ask you questions that may not, as a guitarist myself, I'm always intrigued by a couple of things. And one of them is, when did you realize, I know you started playing when you were young, when did you realize you had the capability of playing so good? I know you went to Berklee and all that stuff, but when did you realize that, oh, I can emulate this song, I can hear it and start playing it? When did that start happening to you as far as saying, oh, I can do this?
I mean, I feel like there's layers of what I can do this means, right? But
I know you get better as you've gotten better.
Right. But I mean, I think probably around high school, later high school, I started feeling like I had the facility to play whatever I was hearing, because the practice of finding whatever I was hearing on the guitar was something that was always very natural to me. That kind of came. That to me was the way I would have learned any song anyway, you know. Right. So that was my natural way of working on it. But I wasn't able to play everything I was hearing until later on, when I kind of put some other things together and spent a lot of time doing that sort of practice. So
Did
maybe
you?
16, 17.
Okay, and then you started realizing. Did you realize at that point, because people that you knew were playing with you or whatever was going on, that this is going to sound egotistical, but did you realize that you were so much better than them? I mean,
No, I mean, I don't think it was like that. It wasn't like that. It was really, well, first of all, it really wasn't like that. But also, the toughest thing for me at that time, I felt like I liked the kind of music that I couldn't find peers my age that would want to play it with me. So it was more of a genre thing where the kids in the school that I went to would want to play indie music or, something else. And I was the shredder and they weren't really interested in that, So, exactly. So it was more that kind of thing.
And then you said, okay, when as you got older and you went to school, you graduated from high school, and then I played in a band back in Kansas City years ago. I played lead and he played lead. He went to Berklee in California, Berklee School out there. And I've never been one to sit down. I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but I mean, to sit down and listen to a song and go, I can do it now. I used to go, what key is that in? I'd, futz around on the guitar and find the key and all that stuff. But one of the things is, and obviously do you still teach there? Or do you do not teach there, but do you still do online lessons and stuff like that? Or you do that anymore?
Very, very little. I have very little time for that. Yeah.
But what he said was, and I wanted to see if you think this, because obviously you had the skill set. You were born, I tell people this, if you're born with it, which you have, did you believe that going to the school, Berklee, helped you understand how songs are put together? I mean, when you listen to it, as far as the components of the song. In other words, you go, oh, this is going to be in D minor, they're going to do this thing over here because of the way music is written. Did that help you understand it better?
I don't know if that was what I needed from Berklee because I knew enough theory by the time I went to Berklee to do my own analysis for most things.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe some more complex stuff harmonically it helped with,
Right.
But in general, that was something that I was able to put together. But, there's a lot of other stuff that came from Berklee education, obviously.
Well, theory is something that, I never took lessons for a couple of years, many decades ago. And then the guy said, I never did understand. He told my mom and dad, I can't teach him anymore. So I don't know if I really sucked or I was really good. You know what I mean?
Maybe he just had a certain threshold of what he knew,
Yeah, I think so. and unfortunately, I never got to thank the guy. I thought about him. I never forgot his name. It was one of those things you never forget his name. And then I realized one day, I need to look him up. Of course, he'd passed away years ago. So it's like I miss telling him, hey, this is what I do now. And he'd go like, did I do that? Yes, you did. You helped. But as you grew as an artist and you got the theory, because I know there's a point for you, I'm sure, and I think with everybody, is you don't want to be, I mean, you write your own stuff, okay? But you also are incredibly good. I mean, look at what you've done in the past, where you had Cirque du Soleil and all the stuff that you've been in, where you have to play note for note songs that you heard.
Right.
And I would think that it would be easy to, and I'm just being quite honest with you, Nili, to tell you the truth. You could probably make an extremely good living doing that. Just playing other people, just playing music for other. I mean, you could come in and I mean, you know what I mean, because everybody goes, "Hey, can you play?" Somebody calls, "Hey, can you emulate this or can you do that?" But then you got your own style on top of that, which kind of drives it a different direction. I would assume also picking up the ability to pick up everybody else's styles, which we all do. It's probably helped you with your own style. Because you probably listen to somebody and go, "Oh, I never thought about that."
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so do you when you perform now, I know that everybody had the same problem with COVID and all that stuff. I know when you come into Dallas like during that, are you bringing the band with you, or they provide the people to help play, or what are you doing?
So what I'm doing, which is the same thing as what I did last year, is there's a house band that will play a few of my tunes with me, and then I will play the rest of my set to backing tracks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it depends on the situation. I mean, there's a lot of times where I will play my music with my band, or I mean, I've done it so many different
Oh, I'm
configurations.
sure.
So yeah.
Do you, I know are you working on something now? I mean, most musicians I talk to, they're constantly working on a new album.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's like you're always working on your next album, right? And it just keeps getting interrupted by everything else. Yeah, I actually have two new singles coming out next month. One on May 9th and the other on May 10th, which is actually on purpose because they're meant to be listened to in sequence. So
Okay.
the first one comes out on the 9th, and then second one, first one called Song for Hope, second one Lavender Mountains.
Oh,
Uh,
wait a minute. I think I did see that. Didn't you?
yeah,
Didn't
yeah,
something?
I've
I didn't
just
know something
recently
direct.
announced it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
said Bush here. I think it was on YouTube or something. It said if you want to hear it because it's
yeah, so there's
okay. I
gonna
did see that.
be
Yeah.
the links are up for the premieres
Right.
on the 9th and the
Right.
10th, and the latter's has a music video as well, so that's gonna be on May 10th.
So when people come
Wow.
up to you and don't know you and they say, "What kind of music do you play?" What do you tell them? And don't just say, "I play guitar." What do you say?
Um, I say I play everything because I feel like by now I've been hired to do so many different things that that's a clearer definition. But then if they ask about my music or what I say primarily play rock music, or I say instrumental rock, or sometimes I say prog, or just, it depends on, you kind of gauge the person's level of understanding of
Ah,
what each of
yeah,
those things mean as you start
yeah,
spitting out words. It's
yeah.
like if you're gonna get a blank stare past rock, then you kind of stay there, and then
Yeah.
if somebody asks for an example of someone I would have heard of, then you say Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty
So
much. Yeah.
so I think that's kind of what has become of those
Oh, we
answers.
know him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually people do. You would hope.
Well, in the genre, the blues genre, it's always Stevie Ray.
Well, sure. And I
Yeah.
love Stevie Ray Vaughan, don't get me
And
wrong, but
and
it's just,
no,
yeah.
I mean it's two completely different things.
Right, 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 right.
And
Yeah.
both of them were incredibly great players, but they just completely different. So
Yeah.
when you write some songs, do you? I'm more of a I don't write very few instrumentals. Mostly mine have words in them, so lyrics in them.
Hmm.
Do you come up with? Do you sit down and do it, or I'm always curious about how everybody else does their stuff? Do you just get an idea and okay, or start futzing around on your guitar and go, I got a little melody here thing going on? How's it work for you?
So usually, ideally, I hear a melody or an idea in my head and I jot it down uh, in my voice memos, usually singing it, which is usually a good test for how memorable that melody is going to be, probably.
Yeah.
And that usually comes with a set of notes for what I think the arrangement should be, etc. Like, oh, I hear a harmony here, or I try to kind of take as many notes as what I'm hearing in my head, and just to jot it down. And then when I'm ready to really flesh it out and work on it, then I start demoing it on Logic and
Okay.
kind of putting together the rest of the picture, and then it goes to the whoever's going to play on it.
So, and I think what was interesting to me was, what's your favorite guitar now? I mean, I know you endorse some people. I think you'd endorse. I forgot who it was now. What was? I see is that a 335 behind you, or is that a
No, it's an Ibanez. It's an
Ibanez? That's right. That's who
AS93.
you
Yeah,
endorse, isn't it?
yeah,
Ibanez.
yeah.
And do you always play mostly solid body stuff? Is that what
Pretty
you do?
much, yeah. Yeah.
And I tell people this because we have podcasters that go, don't tell me all this stuff. Well, it's because I get it. I'm a musician, so as I ask you, are you still doing the head rush thing? Are you
I
typically?
am, so I mean, I was always doing it part-time, like for
Yeah.
me it's all based on the gig and what I need to be doing. Their little MX5 has served as the perfect fly rig just because of its size.
Yeah.
And so I've now, in the last couple of years, have traveled so much with it that
Now
it's always
that's the
also on.
smaller one, isn't it? The
Yeah,
smaller
it's the
unit
tiny
instead of the
one that
bigger one.
fits in your backpack. It's
Yeah.
really tiny. It's incredible. And everywhere I go with that, no one can believe that I got all my sound from that, all my sounds from that. It's so powerful. So it's always been a solution to so many problems. And so if I'm in a situation where I can bring an amp that I want to play and that makes sense and I'm not carrying it, or again, it makes sense in some reason, then I would rather have that, but it's just not always going to be realistic.
I looked at getting, when they came out, I was in a band, we broke up at COVID, and I was going to get the big one because I used to have a Digitech that was a rack unit and it had a floor thing. And I could do as many as, I think it was 4 or 5 effects at the same time. But what I really liked about it was I could program every song of the set list in. So I just pushed a button and here's the next song. And then everybody went to these pedals on the floor where they have 40 of them on the floor. And I'm going like, okay, I don't want all that stuff, because it was like, it's not a lot of effects, people. It's just, there's certain things that people use. I've always been a delay guy and I like a little distortion, but and then if you get in the blues world, they don't use much anything. It's all pretty clean. So when you write a song, and this is because you're such a great songwriter and great guitarist, do you kind of think about, this is the effect I want to use, or you just kind of start thinking, I want to put the delay here, or how's that kind of work for you when you do something? So just kind of come to you?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I think about it as the instrumentation first. So first is the song, do I really hear the guitar as the lead vocalist, to begin with? Sometimes it's a different instrument. I mean, I have songs on my records, the one is played by an accordion and a violin, you know what I mean? So it's not always me. But even when it is, or usually it is, right? But when it is, it doesn't mean that I'm hearing a straight guitar tone, like you were saying, although most of the time it is. So I'm kind of, again, I'm asking myself, like, what do I imagine as the lead instrument or kind of vibe of that tone? What am I trying to say with my guitar? So whether that's just, I'm with you, I like delay and I'm pretty much a purist when it comes to tone. I just like warm distortion, little bit of delay, like you said, to keep it open, but yeah, it's just like I kind of try to let the melodies speak for themselves, and when it needs something a little bit more, a little bit of a different voice, then I kind of ask myself what that might be and aim towards whatever that is, I guess.
When you play, do you have, and I can either put this or take it out, whatever you want to do. Do you have your favorite, not the guitar so much, but what's your amp is of choice? Or do you change them around? Yeah. So
right now I've been playing the Mesa TC100 for a few years now, and it's been awesome. And it's going to be.
Now, is that a tube head or not?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And that's going to be featured on these 2 singles as well. I think they're the first. Yeah, they're the first music I'm releasing that was recorded with that amp.
And then. Let's talk about the songs that you have coming out, because this will come out right after that, right around the same time. Tell me about both of them.
So,
go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, tell me what they mean and what they're all about for both of them.
Yeah. So, the first one, "Song for Hope," is meant to, was literally just what it's called, right? During the pandemic, it just kind of represents the quiet need for optimism that I think we all felt a few years ago. And then that's kind of meant to not really transition, right? But the next thing that's supposed to come along in the story is Lavender Mountains, which is kind of more of an uplifting, not to say ending, but it's just like the whole thing kind of, we went through the journey and we've ended up in a little bit more of a triumphant place. And then Lavender Mountains is inspired by, I guess just the mountains of Las Vegas that surround me. It's where I live. And having come from Israel, I just kind of always felt like the desert's my natural habitat ever since I got here. It's just kind of reminded me of how I felt as a kid in some way that I couldn't explain. And I always get a lot of inspiration from the nature out here and the mountains, how they look purple in the sunlight and everything. So literally the Lavender Mountains, and that's visually represented in the music video as well. So it's just kind of all meant to go together.
I look forward to hearing it and seeing it.
Thank you. Sorry?
I said I look forward to hearing it and seeing it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Are you in the videos?
Yeah. There's one, it's just for Lavender Mountains. The other one doesn't have a video, but yes, I am in it.
So let's talk about your roots, so to speak. Do you get to go back to your home country? Or do you ever go back or have a desire to go back?
I mean, I do. I haven't in a long time, only because, well, I can't find a really good pocket of time.
To go. Yeah, you don't just go on a plane and go.
I mean, and that's the other thing, right? Is that I've been living on the West Coast for so many years now. It's considerably longer than it is from the East Coast, right? Yes, so it really feels like, and when I was younger and my grandparents were still around, I felt like there was more of a reason to have more of an annual visit, but now that's kind of all in my past. So it's as much as I love it, and there's so many places I want to visit as a grown up and do a certain sort of trip. It's like, again, when do you prioritize that?
When did you realize that you wanted to do what you're doing for a living? When did it kick in and you say, "Oh, I want people are going to pay me to do this? How cool is this?"
I don't think I ever really thought that people were going to pay me to do this. I mean, I think when you go to Berklee, I don't know if it's Berklee or if it's my family or my upbringing or whatever, but I kind of really, however, was taught to go in with the mentality of like, if I'm one of the few lucky ones that ever got like a paying gig for anything, then it's just, I was like preparing for a life of falling back on something else. So, I don't know what would have happened if I'd had a different mindset, but I was definitely like, surprised by the prospect of any of it. So,
you know what I find that most of the people that I talk to that are very talented like you, there's always one part of this that I always have to explain to them. And that is, this is the cool part. You don't suck. You're really good at what you do.
Yeah, but that doesn't really even if you are, it doesn't guarantee you anything.
I understand that. But, I understand there's breaks too. Because, look, I've interviewed people that I know will never make it. And some of them I hope they do because they're really good. But it's just sometimes the luck of the draw.
But what does making it really mean either, too?
Well, I mean, for everybody, it's different.
Right. And today's world is different, too. Like, I mean, it means different things. And was there ever one definition? I don't know. I mean, maybe.
I always felt that if you're professional, it pays for the stuff that you need, like food, clothing, and shelter. Yeah. If you're making enough money to do that, then you can, then you're doing okay. And then if you make more than that and you keep going like, oh, I can buy a car, then you really get to the next level. And I think, but the other part I think people don't realize too, is it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It's so much work. It's so much work.
You're not digging ditches, but you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. And a lot of work in a lot of different areas as well.
So tell me what you do. I mean, you mentioned this before. What kind of things attract you, or what kind of people come to you and say, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" You've done a lot already.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of different gigs, and I continue to get calls for different things, I guess, but I've done corporate gigs, and I've done like random weddings because a bride asked for the Top Gun theme, or just, and I've obviously done the gigs that people know me for, and and sessions that maybe people wouldn't have known about and things like that. So I feel like I've really kind of done all over the stuff from all over the gamut.
But I think that's a good thing. I interviewed a 10-year-old that's already a great guitar player out of California. And I asked him, this has been a couple months ago, I said, what is it you want to do? A lot of young people, I want to play in front of 10,000 people and have people screaming, can I autograph and all that stuff. Because I just want to play as many instruments as I can. That's
an amazing vision for a 10-year-old to have. That's great.
And then he said to me, and I said to him, I said, well, the good news about you is when you do that, just like you, people call you and go, hey, can you do this? Because they know you can do it. So, tell me what you want to do. I mean, what's your favorite thing to do? I mean, you do a lot of things now, but if you could wave a wand and say, this is what I want to do, what would you do? Just, I mean, you don't really tour a lot, do you? Or do you?
I mean, I do. It just depends on which acts that I'm in are going on tour. Like, for example, I'm doing a tour with Dethklok this fall.
That's your band, or you're involved with that band? Right?
I'm involved in. It's not my band.
Okay.
But for me, my ideal was always I wanted to split the side work with my own gigs, which is what I'm doing, So it's hard to say that I'm always going to get an even split, because schedules don't work like that, even under the greatest of circumstances.
Right.
So now, again, I think that's how it turned into such a juggling act, as I'm just kind of trying to take it as it comes and not burn out, I guess.
Well, you're fortunate that you're that well known already, and you have that capability of doing that.
I don't know that. I mean, already, I've been at this for a while, and
No.
it feels like it's been a long road, and it's it really is a marathon and not a sprint. You know what I mean? So
Well, think about people like Eric Clapton that are 40 years older than you.
Well, obviously, I can't. I can only.
No, I'm just saying
for however
they're
old
still
I
doing
am.
it.
Yeah, well, I'll be lucky to be doing that when I'm older. So
Yeah, just your fingers will slow down. That's all, and the music, I think, is interesting because the more it changes, the more it stays the same. What do you got ahead of you this year? Do you already know what you got ahead of you, or you just kind of take it as it comes to you?
like I said, so I mean, I have a
With
lot
the
of
band, yeah.
Dethklok, and a lot of Cirque shows coming up for the rest of this year as well.
Oh, you're still doing that. That's
Yeah,
why. Okay, I
yeah,
didn't know whether you're still doing that.
yeah. And I got a few solo shows as well. Obviously, Dallas being one of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And some other stuff that will be announced as we go along, I guess.
Cool. When people want to come see you, just say, "Come see me in Vegas at Cirque du Soleil."
No, usually actually people, now that I'm part-time and I'm not there all the time, people now just ask like, hey, are you doing anything in Vegas this week? Are you doing anything this week? And I'm just like, I don't know. I just, I wait for the calls.
Well, you're
No,
you're like
it's
an
pretty,
actor. You're like an actor. It's like,
no,
go
they call it an on-call, which is literally, I mean, it's great because you have a regular rotation where I do an average of 4 shows a month if I'm home, So
Okay.
if I'm not, it's cool. But then if they need me to sub in for the girl who's full time, Shirin, then they'll call me same day and ask me if I'm around, and then I can say no if I'm not available, or I come in and I help out last minute. So it just depends on what I'm doing, but it's nice to it's a nice thing to have every once in a while, obviously, but also just because it's nice to have one thing that I've done so many times I don't have to think about it. There's no prep, or there's no guitaristic mental and
Right.
musical prep of any kind. It's
Yeah.
like very much on autopilot. It's physically way more taxing than all the other gigs, so it's a very different situation, but it's so consistent in every way, schedule wise too. So it's nice to have one little anchor in a storm.
Tell me, I just kind of curious, how did you get that gig? Did you just try out for it like everybody else, or
Yeah,
it's kind
I
of
mean,
a weird deal to go with what you do and then saying, hey, let's go do play some Cirque du Soleil.
yeah, that show has a particular role, It's really like supposed to be Jennifer Batten, and they would never say it like that, but that's really what it
But they
is,
want, okay, I got
And
you.
so, when they were creating this show over 10 years ago now, we're about to have a 10-year anniversary, but
Well,
they did like an open casting call for that, because I think they realized that it was a very specific thing to find. So the original flyer was sent to me by every single person ever, and then I didn't get it the first time, and I came in several years later. But I got close, and I developed a relationship with them, and then I also realized that they, as well as some other comparable shows or companies, they have casting websites, and they're public about that stuff. So, if you're an acrobat or a gymnast or whatever, you look it up and they're like, this show is looking for a flute player, or whatever. So those things are out there. I didn't know that before this one, but it just, sometimes these things really are public and people don't think about it. But, it'll tell you the list of qualifications that you would need, and it's just like any job. So, yeah.
Did they tell you when you were trying out that you had to wear an outfit? Or you realized that?
I think I knew that. Because the way they were promoting the whole thing, it was very clear that you're going to be a character.
Going back to when you were a kid, growing up in Israel, were you kind of different than everybody else, or did everybody else play music? And I don't mean different, weird. I mean, they were all listening to different music, but I mean, did they look like, and your parents go, you want to do what? I mean, what was that?
Well, not exactly.
Did your brother play too? Your brother
plays, right? Yeah. So that's how I got into it, is my brother and my older brothers and just my family in general was listening to older music around the house than when I was growing up in the 90s, so I was exposed to a lot of different things. I definitely was the odd one out, but at that time, I always loved music and that was a part of it. But when I was a kid, it was more for being like a sports type of tomboy. And in Israel, like sports was not a girl's thing, it wasn't like every girl played soccer, and far from it. So I was mostly made fun of for that, if anything.
So anyway, thank you very much. I wish you the best. I'll keep watching for I can't wait to see your new videos.
Okay, great.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, Rick.
Take care of yourself.
Thanks.
All right, see you. Bye-bye. that's it for this episode of The Trout Show. Thank you so much for listening, and very special thank you to Nili Brosh for coming on and visiting with us. For more information about Nili, you can visit her at her website at Nili, Nili Brosh, BROSH.com, NiliBrosh.com. Very special shout out to our supporter at the Fine Law Firm today. Thank you, Eric Fine and the law firm. And as always, people, you know what I say. If you want more information about The Trout Show, visit us at our website. This is available on podcast and YouTube. Our website is www.thetroutshow.com. Until next time, people, remember, it's only rock and roll. But gosh darn it, don't we love it. See ya.